Deep water to the bank. That's the best analogy I can give when it comes to springtime fishing when you're starting to deal with warming water temperatures, because there's always going to be some fish on the bank ready to spawn, and there's always going to be some way out deep that are just getting ready to move up. What we did on this particular lake here is we went there 3 different times. We started with water temperatures in the upper 40s, low 50s, and it eventually climbed to almost 60 degrees, even into the low 60s in some of the spawning pockets, and we found fish in all different stages every time we went. We caught some less than 2 feet deep skipping jigs when the coldest weather we did, and we actually caught them in the same depths when it came time to find some on the bed. So we found fish in a lot of different situations, set up in a lot of different ways, and we used a lot of different baits to find our success. So keeping that open mind when it comes to springtime fishing, covering lots of water until you find an area that the fish are active, will pay off for you anytime you're heading to a lake.
When I get on a lake in the spring, what I'm really looking for is, first thing I look at is what the water temperature is. Water temperature, as it progresses through the 40s into the 50s, and then from the 50s to the 60s. 60 is the magic temperature when, you start thinking fish might be spawning. The low 50s, that's total pre-spawn fishing, and usually the fish are biting really good. A lot of times you can fish winding baits or just whatever kind of cover is there. So, I just love when it gets in that 50 degree, that magic 50 degree, 52, 55 degrees. Hey, that's game on right there.
All the way up under there.
Way up under there.
That's 2 Clark's got out of the front of the boat from underneath. I think I've seen and learned my lesson.
That fish was really, the water is just so ultra clear here, and there was actually a little clear place there. I pulled my bait out, and I saw him come get it and then just start swimming back under there. Not a huge one, but these fish are so thick and healthy in here right now. It's just pre-spawn. That's what they're supposed to look like.
That's what they're supposed to look like. That's what you want to go to a lake and see.
That's right. When you see them like this, you know you're in the right place.
Yeah. That's what you're supposed to see. When fish start coming to the bank in the springtime, that's about the same time you start seeing a lot of fishermen start heading to the lake, because that warming trend gets everybody excited. Those fish become, more active and easier to catch, and a guy can get in a lot of different places and catch them, whether he's skipping up under docks, fishing weed edges, or fishing spawning flats. There's just a lot more ways to catch them, and eventually those fish will go into a spawning mode, which is really exciting for those guys that like to sight fish.
Oh, I caught him on the side of the mouth. It felt weird. I guess that's why he fought so strange. But nice chunk though. Pretty fish.
All of them up here are pretty.
It's just, we were talking about it earlier. That's what you want to see. This time of year, they should look as fat as they can look all year, and they do. Spring's coming. It's time to go out and catch some fish. And it's just a great time of year. The common mistake people might make is if you get a high sky day, typically you got to slow down just a little bit more. You get some good cloudy conditions, you can speed up a little bit, throw winding baits a little bit more. Today, the sun was out, there was a little bit of breeze, but mainly we just caught them, fairly slow baits, fishing a jig around docks. The big factors in the spawn to me are water temperature, the full moon, or a new moon, and so you never know if you're between a moon or you're on a moon, and the length of the day. As the days get longer, they want to spawn a lot worse. And so those 3 factors are the big keys, and they're not really worried about where the bait is. You know, there may not be any bait at all where you're fishing, but there's tons of fish, and it's because, hey, they're wanting to get up there and spawn. They're not worried about eating anymore. They've gorged themselves up to that point, and so, you know, things are just all the time changing. You get sun, you get clouds. When you get sun, the water temperature will shoot up 3 or 4 or 5 degrees. You get clouds, all of a sudden the fish may get more aggressive and more active. So you just got to have a lot of different baits, think about a lot of different techniques, and just try different things as time goes on.
This is the exact same dock I caught a bass on last time when we were here with Clark. Literally through that eye right there, same spot. Might be the same bass for all we know. Wow, how interesting is that? We flipped through this whole set of docks. Wind's blowing a little bit different. It's cloudy today. We hadn't had the bites that we had when we came through here with Clark. Water temperature's a couple degrees warmer. You'd think you'd get more bites.
The Fisherman's Handbook crew trusts Ranger boats to get them to and from their favorite spots on the water. Let's put your Ranger knowledge to the test. For the answer to this, or to find out more about Ranger boats, visit mydreamrig.com.
During the springtime, some of your best fishing can be had in the evening hours. You know, that 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock period when the sun has gotten highest and warmed that water up. And you want to look for banks a lot of times then that are going to be, you know, facing that setting sun. They might be a degrees or two warmer. And in those situations, a guy can have a lot of success going down and fishing with some baits like a big bite trick stick, fishing it weightless, making long casts, fishing a lot of slow moving soft plastics where you're literally picking apart those areas where a lot of those fish are going to be spawning. But don't forget to cover a lot of water with some fast to medium slow moving baits where you can, you know, twitch pause, say a jerk bait like a Spro jerk bait or a big bites jerk shad that you can fish along in those situations. Those types of baits will allow you to cover some water. And when you start getting some bites or even start getting reactions, kind of slow down and pick them apart again. So any of those types of tactics in the setting sun of the afternoon on those warmer banks where there may even be a little bit of southerly wind pushed in there, where you can find that water temperature that's a couple of degrees warmer, can really pay off.
Oh, that's a good fish.
It's amazing the difference it has. The water has warmed, so how they position themselves different.
Well, you know, I was thinking about it, and what happened is, you know, when we were in here before, we were going around the docks, and now, I mean, you know, under the docks,
Yep.
around the poles, now we're kind of fishing out on these little sandy areas where maybe they'll spawn. Oh, that's a nice fish.
They go through so many different changes based on that water temperature. There we go. He finally made the wrong turn that time.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Nice bass right there. It's amazing. You can go through these things and it looks like an aquarium. There's just bass swimming everywhere back here right now.
Ooh, that's a fatty.
That's a fatty. That's what you like to look at right there.
You know, Wade, when you talk about bass swimming everywhere, I mean, they're not like all on beds. They're just kind of cruising around.
They're just cruising around. You know, we've had just as many bites just kind of out there casting. This guy here may have been cold in a tournament. That's so fun. I can't never get enough of it when the water gets this temperature and gets clear like this. Get out here.
Look how fat that dude is.
Well, that never gets old easy going through here like that. Just a mix of everything. Springtime fishing. Let that water temperature warm up, you never know. You know, there's a couple things on this trip that I think really has to be pointed out. One of them was Clark front-ended me on every opportunity that he possibly had when it came to skipping a jig. I mean, if he thought there was gonna be a fish there, he was gonna catch it. Secondly, when he'd get a fish ready to bite, when it come time to spawn, he'd hit me in the head with the rod. I don't know how many times he whacked me in the head with a fishing rod on this, but it was really a ploy on his behalf to once again keep me out of position to catch a fish. And I think almost try to do physical harm and damage to me. So I want that duly noted that that's the reason why he caught more and bigger fish on this trip.
Not a bad one. Cabela's Ripcord, you know, that spinning rod, a lot of times when you got to throw a spinning rod, I just love braided line. And braided line just makes it so much more manageable on a spinning rod. It's a nice fish. 2.5 pounder or so.
Let's take a closer look at what Clark and Wade are using to pull in the Lake LBJ largemouths. Fisherman's Handbook presents End of the Line, the gear you need to get the big one tugging on the end of your line.
You know, for this lake, it's just a shallow lake. When you get in these pockets, everything's shallow, 2, 3, 4 foot at the very deepest. And so that's where those fish want to be, is up shallow, but it's not like you're in deep water, you know, sitting in 8 foot throwing at the bank. You're in 2 foot throwing at the bank. So fish just kind of spread out on these flats, and I like having a lot of baits rigged. The main baits we've thrown today is a soft plastic jerk bait, you know, trick worm, and then we've sight fished some. And the Ripcord 8, I mean, it's awesome line. You spool that up, you have no problems with your spinning rod once you do that. You put on a fluorocarbon leader and you're ready to go.